Bases dropped on a Friday, and it's a stacked Friday. How stacked is it? Someone in the green room is rubbing their eyes, trying to figure out how to get caffeine in their system just in time before I trigger them and we get to start the show. So here's the deal. Luke Winstel is going to be joining us from a different city and a different background. So if you are confused by the background, you'll know why. We'll talk Women's World Cup, anything on Luke's mind. Then in hour number 2, we're going to get ready for the NPSL final. Sonny Dalesandro, one of the owners for Tulsa Athletic, is going to be joining us, and we'll catch up with Sonny. It's been a very, very busy week, big season for them. 10:30 or more like 10:15, 10:20. We'll get you ready for the weekend because there's stuff to talk about. And my apologies for 9:06 because I'm trying to make sure that everything is as letter perfect as humanly possible. And so once again, good morning, Ricky. In a no dilly, no dally zone, that means we bring in Luke Winstel. Man, that's a fantastic. Now, are you actually in your hotel room there in Sydney?
I am, yeah. I am. I think it's Wentworth Road that I'm on, and I am in a different hotel for one night, and then group stages are over, so headed back to flying to LA, Atlanta, the whole thing. Trying to keep the energy level as high as I can. But thank you for having me on. Glad to join you.
No, as always. It's great to have you and the Merry Band on. And just so you know, after this segment is over, just because you're flying back to this part of the world doesn't mean your job is done with us, because your job's not done with AP, is it? Or are you guys just doing group stage stuff?
I think just group stage where, there's going to be some conversations, I think, between us. But I think group stage is probably going to be it because we're, headed back for classes in I guess a little over a week. So
okay,
I think that's what's next.
All right. So then I will extend to you and the Merry Band a continuing opportunity to discuss Women's World Cup, because I know now that you are all hooked that you're going to continue to get up early and get your morning coffee and all that kind of stuff. So if you and the Merry Band want to come on for the remainder of the tournament, I will extend that invitation to you when you come back here to this side of the world, and it'll be more like 9:05 in the morning instead of 11:05 at night when you're talking to us. So does that sound like a deal?
Sounds like a deal. Thank you. I've already been trying to talk to my parents and my family of, hey, what time are you guys setting your alarms for these? Because now I'm going to have to start doing that. So I've been trying to figure it out. But my mom made me a promise. I told her, I was like, hey, if I stay home for the few days before school, we got to watch some games together. So that'll be some family fun for us.
Yeah, and I want to see the reaction from the Casa de Winstel in DeKalb County and see what it looks like with everybody kind of sitting there going a cup of coffee about that big. Bam wants to thank you for visiting Australia. He's hoping that you had a great time. See you next time that you make it out to his country. So, Bam, the personification of what we like to do here, growing the game and shouting out to you for your visit, for you and the Merry Band.
Well, thank you. Australia's been a great host country for this event. We've had an opportunity to report on what has been going on at the grassroots level and all the different things that are going on that are outside of the World Cup and outside of these games, and just hearing from people has been really interesting, and everyone's been really kind. So really appreciate Australia for everything we've had.
All right. So let me ask you this. Of all of the things that you've done, we can separate this into kind of like two things. And I know we're going to get into game talk here in just a little bit, but the away from the World Cup stuff, what were some of your favorite moments? And the World Cup stuff, what were some of your favorite moments?
Away from the World Cup, I would have to say Lone Pine Koala Sanctuary in Brisbane, getting to pet kangaroos and feed them and have koalas 3 or 4 yards away from you, and Tasmanian devils, watching them eat, and saltwater crocodiles, and all these things that to me were foreign outside of a TV show before this. So that was one that outside, obviously botanical gardens, the nature, the different climate, those kinds of things. The temperature as well, being somewhere around the 70s the whole time outside of the World Cup has been helpful. The idea that I might get too cold when we go to an event was very different for this time of the year. I would wear shorts and I'd have people, second guessing my sanity, basically. But in terms of the World Cup, the thing that we were fortunate with in Brisbane, outside of the opening game in Sydney, the three highest attended games so far have been in Brisbane. So we've gotten a chance to see how well Brazil travels, and they have a lot of people in Australia on the Gold Coast that traveled for that game. So Brazil, France, and then England versus Haiti. Of course, England feels like Australia is a second home. We found out a bit about that storyline with some of our other reporters. And seeing matches like that, also getting to watch Nigeria versus Australia and have the host country and see the impact and the effect and the supporters. So outside of Stadium Australia for game number one, those are the three highest attended matches of the group stage. And that was something that I feel like we just lucked into. And that's something that I'll never forget about the experience, because I feel like I've seen the best of Australia and the best that the Women's World Cup has had to offer.
All right, so let's get into the stuff on the field. Give me, as we go into, this is what I like to do with the guests that come on the show. We play a game called red light, yellow light, green light. And what I mean by that is, give me a team when I say red light that you think, we're going to going DEFCON 1, scramble the bombers, get sacked on the line, everybody's hair is on fire, they're running around in circles, and they're massive problems. The yellow light teams either can be working their way from red, where things were awful, toward the green light, where things are doing swimmingly well, or they could be just mediocre. And obviously the green light teams that, for whatever reason, you have them locked in as they're just humming along, ain't nothing stopping them, that kind of a stuff. So if we play group stage heading into the knockouts, red light, yellow light, green light, where on the stoplight would you like to start? What light do you want to start with first?
Okay, let's maybe go green light.
All right, so who are your green light teams, either in group stage or heading into the knockouts? Who's your green light?
Green light teams right now, for me, I'm going with Australia. I feel like the momentum, this was my final story that we just put out, I guess, overnight for you. It would be of talking about how they feel comfortable with their backs against the wall, and now it's their second elimination game of the tournament, basically coming up against Denmark. They earned their first win against Denmark in their program history back in October 2022, fairly convincingly. Went down 1-0, scored 3 straight goals, won the match. And looking at the matchups, Australia is a deeper team. Denmark defensively has been impressive. So that's the one thing, that they can keep it low scoring and then try to punch it at the end. So if Australia doesn't win, that would be, Denmark defensively holds out, and then the world-class striking with Pernille Harder, Trollsgaard, those kinds of players might come through late in the match. But as of now, I don't see that is likely. I'll take Australia going through. I'll take the other team I was thinking, and this is not the most surprising pick ever, but England to me went from the match against Haiti. We were looking at, Haiti debutantes, team that we weren't very sure about, doesn't have a lot of funding, and then it's 1-0, and the difference was a penalty kick that VAR had plenty to do with. Mm-hmm. And the first penalty kick was saved even. And then Georgia Stanway, after the keeper came off her line, then they had to redo the penalty, then she scores again. So to us, it was like England barely eked that out. But then with James coming through the way that she has lately, and her ability, I was talking about this with actually my professor today, Carlo Finlay. We've watched England together. We covered their third match, I want to say, or we were doing some kind of remote coverage and got to watch them again really closely. And it seems like James adds a dynamic to that offense of a lot of the attack moves inside the 18, but she can do stuff outside of it. She expands the range, things we talk about in basketball. But her ability to expand that, to me, says England can attack you in so many different ways. They've got different options. When you look at one of the things about the press box, like at Brisbane Stadium, we're very high up, but we can see the shape. And England's shape felt so well coordinated. Their spacing, they're playing into gaps. That was one of the first things I picked up in that game, and I don't think you had to be very smart to see it, because it was so clear how well they hold their shape and their spacing. So those kinds of things, good technical soccer. I really feel good about England, and I think a lot of people should. I'm thinking that's a team that goes through, semifinal at a minimum. but I think they're probably playing in that final.
All right, yellow light once again. It can be a team that's just kind of hanging out. No, they're just kind of there. They open the door. There's a party, and they're like, yeah, we'll just kind of go and hang out by the punch bowl. Or it could be a team that has started out as a green light heading toward a red, or it can be a team that started as a red light heading toward a green. Jason Nix has given the U.S. the red light. We'll get to red light in a sec. But who's your yellow light for whatever reason?
Let's see. So yellow light for me, I'm trying to think through the bracket in my head here. I feel like I'm trying to sort out if France is green light or yellow light to me. They're definitely in that conversation. I guess I'll go yellow light since I've already done green light. For France, there were some moments, right? I mean, you're building into this tournament, and you have in the group stage Wendy Renard and then Selma as well. Are these players going to be available? What's going on? Turns out they were available. They beat Brazil. That was a big deal. But even coming in, losing to Australia on the doorstep of the tournament in Australia, saying, okay, is this the number 5 team in the world, or where do they actually stand right now? And I think that they've come from that loss before the tournament and then the injuries to now being a team that I say, I'll give them the yellow light. I'm bordering on green with France. That was a team that came into my mind there. But I'll go yellow with them for now. Okay. So that'll be the pick there. And then I'll also go yellow with Colombia. And I like, let's see. One of the coolest things with Colombia has been their fan support. I've been really impressed with the number of supporters that they've had. But for Colombia to come in to upset Germany, to have some young stars that have stepped up, that was one of the things to me. It's okay. They've got a little explosiveness that I wasn't expecting. So that's why I'm boosting them up to yellow. So those are a couple of teams I'll pick there.
All right. So you know which part of the stoplight is left. Who gets that one and why?
I'm thinking, when I think red light, I'm thinking who's in danger. And we've already lost 3 of the top 10. I want to say 5 of the top 20 in the FIFA rankings. And the team that's in danger, it's got to be USA. I don't feel very confident in the US right now. And I thought about yellow light here, and that might be a little more fair. But it's just coming off Portugal, the expectations. The thing with Sweden is that matchup just feels so even to me. That feels like the type of game that I've been saying, where is this going? I have to wonder if that goes to penalties even, whether that's a 0-0 or a 1-1, because I don't see it. And the thing is, even if I try to see it, then I take Rose Lavelle out of the picture, and then I have trouble seeing it again. Okay. So that's red light for me.
Okay. Let's talk debutantes for a second. And it was for me. You know me, I'm the patron saint of the underdog. I'm like the St. Jude when it comes to sports. It's like, give me the underdog and I'll follow them all day because there's fantastic stories attached. When you look at 3 teams that make it out of the African continent into the knockout stage, and especially the drama that was associated with Morocco and what happened there with Colombia and, having to beat Colombia, then waiting on the Germany-South Korea result, and seeing all the emotion that's attached, and now they get France in the knockouts. We've seen that matchup before. We saw that at the tail end of last season when the other world championship was being decided. When it comes to all of the new folks that have made their way in, they bumped off some of the old guard for whatever reason. You see all these new faces. What's it like to see the new faces in the knockouts for you?
Well, with Morocco coming in, you talk about a roller coaster. One of the first games I watched of this entire tournament was Germany destroying Morocco, the 6-0. And, seeing Morocco make it with the negative goal differential, make it onto the round of 16 was wild, because their second match against South Korea Republic, whichever you prefer, I was assigned to do coverage of that remotely. So I want to say it was in Adelaide. So I'm on my computer, and they're like, just do the game, put it in. I'm not getting a byline. I get a little tag at the bottom. So it's nothing special. And I'm just like, okay, glad to help out, whatever. And it was like a small assignment, just Sunday, whatever, here you go. And then all of a sudden we're typing this up, game ends, and we're like, wait a minute, this story actually might run somewhere. And they put the headline on it. It was on the title of the AP Sports page for, a couple of hours, or AP Soccer page for a couple of hours. And I'm looking at it like, wow, that was really history. And thinking about how significant it is to be the first Arab country to ever win a women's soccer game in the World Cup. And looking at that, I was like, okay, this is serious. Like, no way they do it again, right? And they did it again. And then all this situation. So, I'm sure people are used to hearing, we've got multiple screens up during the match. We had in Brisbane, Germany versus South Korea. We're watching that unfold. I've got the game on my phone. There's the monitor with the game for replays. And we're trying to figure out, with Morocco, are they going to make it? Is Colombia generating dangerous opportunities? Because we had to write a live gamer, deadline gamer there, which, you file at the final whistle. How do you file it if the other game's not over? So we're watching extra time, stressing out. I'm not writing it. I'm like helping Molly Lee write it. So you talk to Molly, and Molly's got 4 different leads written because any one of the 4 could happen. And I'm sitting there like, I'm not even writing this, and I'm stressed out. Like, I hope we get this right. And then the Morocco game ended first. I was like, Morocco's over. It's done. And they're like, oh, Germany's got probably 2 minutes to score. So we're watching on the edge of our seat. Like, are they going to do it? They didn't do it. They weren't dangerous enough. Germany late. One of the things in that Germany game that this was even part of our lead that we talked about, and I had to write the obituary on the German team basically here.
Oh, mm-hmm.
And it's not easy, but I had some good help with that. And in the 85th minute, they found out that their goalkeeper told us they found out in the 85th minute that they needed a goal, which to me seems a little late. But the coach apparently didn't want to make them nervous at halftime, so they were not given an update. So all these things are spinning in my head all at one time, and I've got to get down to the mix zone and try to interview people, and thinking about having to interview some of these players after, maybe a career low moment, and trying to, pull it all together and try to be respectful. So that was a different experience, and that's all because Morocco came and found a way to score a goal and then hold down the fort, and they are through. So the debutantes have been the thing that puts everything into a frenzy. And we've had that now multiple times. Jamaica's been a fun one to watch, even though they're not debutantes, they're one that gets to the round of 16 that people didn't expect. So a few of those things have happened, and I love it. Love to see it.
And Jason Nix, who's been keeping an eye on the conversation this morning, Nick says not just a negative goal difference, but -4 in all. I mean, it really does. It really does give you a step back. And he says the real winner from the World Cup is the move to 32 teams. It's been awesome. And then you mentioned the comment about the coach not letting the players know. He said that makes no sense. You got to let them know a situation like that.
And that was the kind of thing too that one of the players had mentioned, like, oh, I don't think I knew until about 6 minutes left. And then they changed their tactics and moved that player, Lena Oberdorf, who's VfL Wolfsburg. They moved her up in the formation to attack more. And then I was like, okay, but I don't really have my answer. Like, I'm not reporting when I say that. So the goalkeeper came over, Merle Froms, and I said, what was the minute that they told you? And she's like, oh, yeah, the 85th. And I was like, whew, that's one of those that, there's a few coaching decisions, of course, especially when you lose in a Women's World Cup game or group stage that get questioned. And I was like, well, I think as soon as we typed that one out, it was me, and then there was an ESPN reporter next to me. So I was like, between the two of us, that's going somewhere.
Yeah, when you're tardy to the party and you find out just a little too late about something like that, that's wild. Bam with another question for you about Australia. How did it feel not having to add tax to your purchases?
Pretty good, because when I would go in, I wasn't having to do – well, no, I can't say I wasn't having to do mental math. I might have had to do more mental math because I was saying, what's 66% of this, and how good or bad of a purchase is it after that?
Divide by 3, brother. You know about doing baseball games. It's like going 1 for 3 or 2 for 3 in the batter's box. Divide it by 3. Yep. That's 66%.
Exactly. I was, $18 for a lunch is like 12, and then I say, okay, that's not the worst thing. But yeah, it was nice not having to do like a 7% on top of that for sales tax, because that really would have been a little wrench in there on my calculation. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was cool. It's got me thinking a couple of times. There's been a few times in Australia where I'm like, what if we had this law, or what if we did it this way? And then I think about it and I'm like, that's a little above my pay grade probably, but I liked it.
But there's nothing wrong with suggesting it, because there are some states here that don't have sales tax, and you sit there and it's like, okay, we'll sit there and we'll do it this way. No income tax, there's no sales tax, all these kinds of things working through. Luke, once again, what's your travel plans? You're out of Sydney when?
Out of Sydney in a few hours, probably, I guess, less than 7 hours. So what I did, I took the little, block of sleep, woke up, got going, got everything, little hydration before the show.
Attaboy.
And then headed back. Already brushed my teeth, so I think I'm ready to just straight back to bed, wake up, and then bought myself a new book for the flight from Sydney. And then there's something with the international date line that means even though the flight takes a billion hours, I'm still ending up there in the same day. I think because I get the day back, because last time
because
I lost the day and I time traveled, and now I'm reliving the day. So it'll be the longest day of my life because I've never done this before. And then after that, get back, moving into a new place in Athens, and then getting ready for another little stretch of obviously high school football and finishing up school.
Yep. Jason Nix is referring to you now as a freaking time traveler. And Bam says the 5th will be the longest day you have had in the history of your life. So you get to live the 5th twice. Luke, thanks you and the Merry Band. So if you would, when you see everybody, just make sure you pass word along. Thanks to all of you guys hanging out in group stage. Obviously, you've got golden ticket status for knockouts. So if there's anything that you ever want to talk about, or any of the rest of the Merry Band when it comes to knockout stage going forward, thanks for hanging out with us, being our eyes and ears on the ground, you and Bart Keeler both. And just get home safe, one Lakeside Viking to another. We will catch up with you when you are back here covering things from a domestic perspective. Luke, thanks for hanging out with us during the group stage. We'll catch up with you soon, my friend.
Thank you for having me. It's been an honor, and good luck with the rest of the show.
Thank you much. Luke Winstel, he's going to go take a nap. Scruffy's bar closes at 6 a.m., according to Bam. So, Scruffy's, 6 a.m. That's your assignment, apparently, before you leave town. So, Luke's going to go get the rest of his nap in, and then he's going to hop on a plane, and then he's going to work his way back this way. Bart Keeler, I think, is a couple days behind, and so we'll when we catch up with Bart, that's going to be fun, and find out his experiences, because Bart was living the dream yesterday, and so that was where he was kind of preoccupied with all of his activity. And Soccer for USPOD. Don't forget, listen to the back episodes that have been taped since he's been down there. He's been a very, very busy man. And it's been very, very cool to get the perspectives of Luke and everybody there at the University of Georgia with that program that's there. Fantastic stuff for them. And it has been really cool to get their perspectives, the experience and the stories of a lifetime as grad students there at the University of Georgia. It's 9:30 on a Friday, which means one thing. And it also means that I get to run an open, because somebody else is going to be joining us here in short order. Michael Parkhurst adjusting his lid. He's wearing his Rhode Island gear. Actually, tell you what. Actually, it was right on the edge. It was right on the edge of the studio space, right there. There it is. There's your Rhode Island FC-ness that is hanging out with us. So you've got your Rhode Island FC stuff. I've got it here in the studio. I do want to ask before we go, as an owner, about the whole P/R discussion that was apparently tabled yesterday about the league that you're going into We'll get into that a little later on. You can put your owner hat on. You can take that hat off, put your owner hat on. We'll talk about that. So how was breakfast ball?
Breakfast ball. It was a struggle. It was a grind, John. First experience playing in a tournament, and it showed.
Please elaborate, sir, since we've opened this door.
No, to be fair, the first day I didn't play terrible. I played. I just played average, so I didn't play great, but I didn't play terrible. So he's talking about the member tournament that I played in golf.
Yes.
Which they didn't allow breakfast balls, and I could have used a handful.
Yes, it's the equivalent of like an early morning mulligan, Jason. Where instead of calling it a mulligan because you're in an early morning tournament, it's a breakfast ball. And so, those of us here on the show, we'd sit there and it's like, look, you guys ought to get all the breakfast balls you want just because you're dropping right into a golf course. You're playing an early morning tournament. You're not awake unless you got up at the crack of before dawn 30. So I think that there ought to be some allowances made for more than one breakfast ball per nine. That's just me.
I agree.
Am I wrong? I didn't think I was wrong.
No.
How much Women's World Cup have you been able to either watch in replay or look through social media and things like that?
A good amount. Watched the first two games of the U.S. fully, but caught a decent amount of the other games just through social media and catching bits and clips here and there.
So what have you thought?
From the U.S. perspective, a mixed bag.
Yeah.
I think that, if you're looking at it optimistically, we haven't played our best and we got through the group. So that's great. Because it's difficult to get through the group. I mean, ask Brazil, Canada,
Germany. Yeah.
If they'd be happy to be where the U.S. is right now. No doubt the road's tougher now. I mean, Sweden matchup's difficult. The next round, if we were able to get by Sweden, you've got Japan and Norway, the winner of that. So it's a tough road ahead. But hey, their goal is to win it, right? Because they're good enough to win it, and they've done it obviously 2 times in a row now, and a handful of times. So if they're going to do it, they have to beat the best anyway. So it doesn't matter at what point, but you're just hoping that, things start to click. Offensively, it's been a struggle. Even in the first game where we're creating chances and, against a far, inferior team, it just didn't look sharp in the final third, and that's carried over a bit. And so hopefully we can turn it around. But, I think that, in my personal opinion, I thought that the criticism of the women for their dancing and signing autographs and stuff, I thought it was a little bit too far. Because again, I think that you need to be excited that you got out of the group. And I think that they know that they didn't play well. I think they know they got lucky, right? They're not blind to those things. But I am hoping that, that supreme confidence and teetering on the edge of cockiness helps them have that swagger in the knockout rounds.
And I think it also speaks to the growth of the game in and of itself, where you've got, and we were talking about it with the guest that was on before you, where you've got 3 teams from the African continent that have made it to the knockouts. You've got a team in Jamaica that has a 17-year-old rising senior from Chambly High School that is playing minutes in the second half and being the fresh legs alternative for them in Soleil, Washington. How the game in and of itself is growing and the margins are shrinking to where if you had a team that was going to out athletic, to create a word, the team that they were going up against, they can't quite do that anymore. If you're talking about a big gun, you can't just out athletic teams anymore because those margins are closing.
Totally. And I think the U.S. are realizing that, because we used to just out athletic other countries. And we can't do that as much anymore. And it's great for the game. It's great that women are getting these opportunities and the game is growing, and that these other nations are catching up and closing the gap. It's great for the game, but definitely it's something for, U.S. soccer to keep an eye on of, hey, what do we have to do to make sure that we stay atop this mountain?
How much mentoring is, I mean, and if you can think of percentages off the top of your head, how much of the mentoring that you and Greg and Beyond Goals is male athlete, female athlete? How what's the dividing line? How much is how many? I guess what's the female athlete perspective with the male athletes?
I'd say it's 20 to 25, 75, 80.
Okay, so 3 to 1, 4 to 1, something like that.
Yeah.
Is there anything that's different in the conversations with male mentees and female mentees, or is the messaging pretty much the same? Do you have to do things differently with one set or the other?
No, I think the messaging is pretty much the same. I think the only difference is I try and include clips of women's national team games rather than, clips of men doing stuff, because I think that's important. But, other than that, though, I think it's really quite the same. A lot of these young women out there, they're pushing themselves and they want to get to that highest mountain. Some of the things that are different is the leagues and, college is still atop the mountain. I know that there's now a few players that are skipping college and turning pro, but that's very, very young and very new for women. So I still think the conversation is, ECNL to college for the very top athletes. So that conversation is just a little bit different as far as pathways, but everything else is kind of gender neutral.
When you are having conversations with your mentees, this is just a question that has struck me for a while. Is there a question or a topic that you wish they would address with you more that you don't? Is there a question that you wish you would get asked that you never asked? Is there a situation that you wish you could address more, but they never bring up, and then you kind of maybe forget to bring it up or something like that? Is there something that you wish you were asked that you never get the chance to answer?
That's a good question.
Is there a part of the mentoring aspect of it that, it's like you might only be able to gloss, and then you wish you could get more in depth, but for whatever reason it kind of gets put to the side, then you forget about it and it kind of goes off in the corner and gathers dust? Is there anything like that happens? Is there a topic or an angle that never really gets the sunlight that it deserves, I guess is probably the way to phrase it?
I think that one topic is parent involvement. I wish that I could be a little bit more upfront with some things. But as far as with the players, I think that leadership wise, if they would ask more questions about, and I got one just yesterday from a mentee asking about, the team vibe is not good. And I seem to be accepting losing, and some guys don't care. And how do you change that environment? What are different ways to try and go about, changing the mentality within the group? Things like that are really, really good questions, and they're difficult, and it's challenging. And even for me, as a player back in the day, that's one thing I didn't do very well, was hold guys accountable. Guys like Joseph and Jeff were far better than I was at holding guys accountable. But I think interactions with teammates and how to deal with, the teammate that you don't see eye to eye with, the teammate that, you wish cared more or did things differently or goofs off too much, right? How to, instead of just shutting them off or ignoring them, right? How do you get to them? How do you get them on the same page? How do you, still get the best out of them? Those types of things I think are important that we kind of just forget about or don't deal with.
So then how do you address, someone who comes up with you and it's like, hey, I want to try to change a team vibe, and it's that one person that is banging their head up against a majority of players or something like that. Because if that majority has that vibe of, schlep rock or droopy dog or whatever, the black cloud, and that one player wants to come in and address it and try to change it, obviously it's a massive battle, but I think it speaks to that mentee about wanting to change it in the first place. What are those conversations like about changing a vibe?
Yeah, it's difficult and it's not overnight, for sure. And, it depends on your role within the team a little bit, because, if you're a leader or a respected player on the team, then you have a little bit more influence to change things. If you're a role player or just, a good player, but not a leader per se on the team yet, then I think that you have to go about it maybe a little bit differently. But I think it starts in training, where it's important that every possession game and every small-sided game, people care about winning those games, because I think it slowly starts to translate over of like, okay, losing is not acceptable. We need to win. We need to have that hunger to win. And I think that a lot of those games and training, that's where that is established. So that when you go out there on a game day, you've got that same intensity and fire to win a small-sided game now with your teammates in 11-a-side. So I think that's the first step.
Have you gotten better about reminding folks? You mentioned about holding folks accountable, and something that you got to learn at, hanging out with Jeff or Joseph and in that environment. Have you gotten better about reminding folks and being accountable about those kinds of things? Have now that you've had time to kind of look at it and now be a mentor about it, have you been better about reminding folks about accountability?
Yeah, and in my opinion, it's one of the most difficult things to do, is hold people accountable, because for the most part, you want to be friends with teammates, and you want to be viewed like that, and to hold people accountable is to stick your neck out there a little bit and be uncomfortable in the situation, and that's hard for some people, and it takes a certain personality to not care a little bit. But the conversations are around that, if that's not in you, you have to know that if you feel it, the majority of the team feels it. And so by you holding someone else accountable, half the locker room, most of the locker room are even if they're quiet, they probably support you and appreciate that someone is holding somebody accountable.
Well,
and I think that.
Well, and just because you mentioned that, and I think that voices come across in different ways. You can either be that vocal leader and have that voice that's out there, or be the quiet guy that comes across and it's just like you know how to pull somebody aside. It's just like you want to have that private conversation, or you want to have that look or the stare or something. I think that comes it can come from a couple of different angles. Yeah,
totally. And, I was definitely more of a side conversation. And I think that helped me a little bit as far as like when I did blow up in a locker room or get really frustrated, I think everyone listened and kind of, it took the room, by surprise sort of, and, kind of make them all kind of think of like, oh, something really must be up if Parky's acting like this, right? It's different if it's somebody that's constantly blowing up and constantly yelling, right? And then it's just kind of, oh, it's just this guy going off again. But if it's out of the ordinary, it kind of sticks out a little bit more.
When it comes to blowing your stack, I mean, what kind of an event did it take for you to blow your stack to where you're bringing the hair dryer out, and then that locker room is sitting there going, oh, ish, Parky's really mad? I mean, you don't have to necessarily say specifically what it was, but what was the event that led up to it and got you to that point to where you just had to sit there and blow your stack?
Yeah, not too often, but it would be more cases of like, if I saw things within the team, little quarrels that were affecting the performance on the field that are costing all of us more running, more effort, more losses, things like that, especially at either at halftime or right after the game. Very, very rarely at training for me. Moments like that, and just the disrespect or just a lack of effort or a lack of care, it just wasn't acceptable. And every now and then it just boils over, right? If you feel like you're giving everything you got and you just have some teammates that you don't feel like aren't, that's really frustrating, especially this time of season when it's 90, 100 degrees out, and you think somebody else isn't working too hard for the team that's costing everybody else, and you lose, or you give up a goal because of it or something like that. That's when you can blow up pretty quickly.
No doubt. I mean, so then let me get to Jason's question, and I know that you can keep an eye on the timeline too. Nick's wants to know if you think that Gonzalo Pineda is holding the Atlanta United guys accountable, and do you see that from him and this team?
Yeah, it's tough for me to say without being there, because I think that a lot of it can be done in the film room. There's certain coaches like Tata we didn't hold guys accountable in that regard with film, right? When we came off a bad game or a game where somebody had a couple mistakes, or even multiple people had mistakes that led to us losing, he didn't like to show the group that. He didn't like to call guys out like that. And I understand that a little bit, because what's in the past is in the past, and you kind of want to look forward and keep guys' confidence. But at the same time, I think it's an important learning tool, but also to let them know, like, hey, nothing goes unnoticed, right? Every play is important within a game. And, I think that the rest of the team, for the most part, right, if it's like, I'll use the last game as an example, right? It's a terrible mistake from Hernandez to go for that header, right? It's Miles's ball. You let Miles go for that. You stay with your guy on the wing, right? Terrible mistake. And I think that something like that, like guys, it's not a lack of effort or anything like that. It's a quick little mental mistake. And I think that, if you're watching that on video, the next day or something, like, guys in the locker room aren't mad at Ronald anymore, right? It's like, it's in the past, but let's learn from it as a group, right? So that the next time it happens on the other side of the field, Wiley doesn't make that mistake, or Lennon or whoever, right, is in that position. Let's not compound mistakes here. And so, I think that I'm assuming he's trying to keep guys accountable. I mean, Parata's not in the lineup right now, and Abrams having a chance. Things are mixing up a little bit. I think that I want to think that he's doing the best he can to keep guys accountable. Yeah. But it's frustrating, of course, when these little mistakes are costing points.
So when it comes to your mentees and reminding them to keep the past in the past, not dwell on it, those kinds of things, so they can focus on improving and going forward, how do they take those kinds of conversations and those kinds of hints? Because I would imagine, professional athletes, they understand that they can put things in file 13, wad it up, throw in the garbage. Okay, I learn from it, I move on. Are those conversations with mentees, do they have to be a little bit more constant? Do they have to be reminded about these kinds of things? Because I would imagine that, because when we were teenagers, when something happens, we really take it personally. And it bogs us down, and it takes a lot to kind of push through it. When you have conversations with mentees, is it still the same with that generation as it was with mine and with yours?
Well, that's a lot of our conversations, and because I think what you're talking about is a growth mindset, right? Yeah. And accepting that things aren't perfect, nor should they be. But what do you do with these moments that aren't good, right? You forget about them, or you can learn from them. And if you learn from them, then there is no such thing as failure, right? It's just a learning tool. So that is a key component of our mentoring, and it's a mentality that some players have innately, and some players definitely need to work on, and it's a struggle for them. But that doesn't mean it can't be overcome and it can't be learned, right? And some of that is like focusing on the positives, even though you're making mistakes. So, right, you focus on the positives, and then you think about that one mistake and how do you learn from that and overcome it, right? And it's just more so like not taking it personal, right? Everyone makes these mistakes, and I think some of it comes down to expectations as well, of like, hey, stop expecting to play perfect or having a desire to play perfect. I saw something recently with Pep Guardiola. I think it was an old clip of him in a training session with Man City, and he got really upset with somebody, I forget who, because they weren't taking risks. And right, that's a great way to look at things, right? Where it's like, hey, you want to take risks, and the more risks you take, the more mistakes you're probably going to make. And especially in training, you want to be doing that. And even in games, especially in certain parts of the fields, you need to take the risks, because that's when good things happen. That's when, key passes and goals, those things come usually from risk taking. So if you're playing a perfect game, then, you're not challenging yourself enough.
Like when a particular player sees a back pass and it's a Portland player and he jumps the passing lane and he creates a turnover that turns into a goal in a championship game situation, like that kind of a risk. See, nod the head. See, there you go. That's why I was looking for that. I was looking for that. You mentioned leadership. When it comes to mentees these days, how many of the mentees, or I guess if you want to talk about it from a group perspective, how many of your mentees are those innate leaders that you talk about, and how many of them are learning to become leaders as you and Greg get to spend more time with them?
I think probably 60-40 are leaders, or have the viewpoint that they can be viewed as a leader or have some leadership qualities within their team. I think that, and that's impressive. I like that. And I think that, one of the things we stress is you don't have to be the captain. You don't have to be the leader, or, who coach thinks is the leader, in order to have some leadership qualities and bring some leadership to the team, right? We had a lot of leadership within Atlanta United, even though, Jeff or I was wearing the captain's armband. Brad was a leader, Darlington was a leader, Joseph was a leader, Miggy was a leader. Like, these guys all had some leadership qualities that they brought to the team that guys respected, and understanding what those qualities can be for you as a person is key.
When you are in these kinds of situations, what's it like for you to see someone grow into a leader? That individual that didn't come in, and they might have had some of those instincts, but to see them finally grow and flourish as they're growing into a leader. What's it like for you and Greg to see that kind of individual come out and basically blossom as they continue to learn?
Yeah, I think it's awesome. That's why we do what we do, is to see that growth, for sure. And it's awesome to see when it's clicking and they're understanding it and it's helping them, and they feel good and they're excited to go to practice, and they're excited to write in their journal afterwards and share some of the good things that they've done, and explain how they're implementing some of the things and what they're doing for their team, and just understanding their role, right? I think that, you can find great pleasure in understanding your role within a team, whether you're in sport or outside of sport, right? You don't have to be the head honcho to have a really big impact and enjoy what you do, as long as you know how important yourself is to that team.
Rapid fire before we go, since we got 5 good minutes. Emilio's asking, can a player come across as possibly overly vocal to the point that other players may tune him out?
Yes, if it's overly vocal to the negative side. If a guy is constantly, complaining about this, complaining about that, on guys about bad passes and technical things that they're messing up, then yes, guys will tune it out and won't care as much when they're saying things. You can't be too much to the positive, though.
Yeah. Abby, with an FYI, the East Valley new building isn't open until after the fall break, and she's hoping that the family as well.
Delays.
Sound like Martin the Martian all of a sudden. Delays. Ricky Ricardo, do you have any restaurant suggestions in Providence? Because Ricky is listening to the show, and he's on his way down there right now.
Oh, wow. Vonda is not technically in Providence, but it's the best little Italian place, Vanda. It's amazing. What else in Providence? Federal. You can't go wrong on Federal Hill.
Okay. All right. Federal Hill. We'll keep an eye on that. Also, are there any stores that have RIFC merch, or does he just get it online?
We have a store at our facility in Pawtucket. I should know the address, but I don't off the top of my head. But it's right in down. I mean, Pawtucket's not big. Downtown Pawtucket's not big. So our headquarters has got a storefront right outside of it. So if you're in Pawtucket, you probably can't miss it.
Okay. What do you think about this Messi dude? And it seems like Barcelona from the late 2010s that have shown up down there in Fort Lauderdale.
It's incredible. It really is. I mean, he seems to be bought in. He's obviously playing well. Him and Joseph have got a good connection. They're going to score a ton of goals. Busquets is incredible as well. And there's going to be no shortage of players who are going to be asking their agent this offseason, can I get to Miami? And they'll take less money.
Yeah.
Because to play with him and Busquets and what's going on down there, and Joseph, and I mean, for sure. So, and with that comes probably a lot of pressure on Tata and the group to win MLS Cup next year. I mean, this year is you've got to pass because of where they are.
You've also got Open Cup and Leagues Cup, which can get you into CONCACAF Champions League, which is another entry point for the pink team.
Yeah, which is important. So we'll see. I obviously he's not going to keep up the rate that he's on right now. I mean, I don't think, but he's had all home games right now. So let's see how he does when he gets on a plane and gets into Dallas and it's 110 degrees.
Exactly. So
not that it's cool in Miami either, but
you just have weather delays in Fort Lauderdale. Cut the promo for me about everything going on with you and Greg and Beyond Goals.
We're getting into the thick of it. Preseason starting up. We've got a preseason package going on. So giving a discount to kids that are trying to get into it and on the fence about it. And so excited about that. I'll be down there at the end of the month for Atlanta United Academy, kickoff dinner with Arthur at the Benz they do every year. So Greg and I will be part of that. We're excited to be there for that. So that's about it.
And owners meetings in Colorado Springs that were supposed to be starting in the early part of next week for USL Championship, where things were supposed to be on the discussion, but Jeff Ruder says now they're not. So the P/R discussion gets tabled for another time. Enjoy the owners meetings. We'll catch up with you soon, my friend.
Appreciate you, John.
All right, that's Michael Parkhurst. You might have heard of him. He's a good dude. And so great to catch up with our friends from Beyond Goals Mentoring. Time to start hour number 2 here on the show. And to do that, I get to send out an official kind of a tweet where we now get to say that we heard it on the X, because we're now joined by Sonny Dalesandro. Hey, so how was last night? I know that you're getting ready for a title game. How was it?
I know. Speaking of not good dudes, now we got this guy on. Yeah, it was good. I've been tasked with entertaining a few people as they roll into town, so it was nice to see some old friends, some old faces, catch up a little bit, stay out later than you would like, and then jump on this morning with you. So apologies about my appearance and anything that might stream of mind flow out, but yeah, happy to be here.
Nothing wrong with the stream and flow, because when this goes to tape, Sonny, we can always sit there and give it an E rating, and folks know what's going on.
CGI my face, if you would, please. Be appreciated.
So what's it like? What's the vibe been like this week as Tulsa Athletic is getting ready to host Apotheos for the last game of the year in the NPSL?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. Loose and focused, if you can be those two things at the same time. I mean, we have the luxury of having our heart broken in the most glorious fashion the last 2 years. So I think, in a way, that lends itself to a powerful lesson being learned in that I think we have an idea of how we want to prepare and be for this match. Me saying those words guarantees nothing, but, the boys are good. There's always some music going on when they're around. Training looks good. Everyone's loose, and we've watched Apotheos now play about a lot of the guys about 3 to 6 times on tape. So, we're ready to lock horns. It's going to be a pretty nice crowd, I think. So just now get by that 106-degree weather that we're having here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the modest temperatures that are going on here these days. For someone who's never seen T-Town soccer and has never seen Tulsa Athletic play, how would you describe things philosophically off the pitch, and then how it translates to what goes on the pitch?
Yeah, again, another really good question. So philosophically, I would say the two try and mirror each other. What we do at this level is really hard. I was looking at, since we came into the league in 2013, there have been 144 teams that have left, folded, all that stuff. So it's hard. And I think one thing that's always served us well is we're just a super blue collar club. And me being the owner, I can proudly say I've scrubbed toilets. I continue to mow the lawn. My mom takes tickets. My dad will make Italian sausage sandwiches next to the field when we're at our home venue. But I think when you install that spirit of, listen, there's no task too small, there's a willingness to do just about anything, it creates a system of accountability. So philosophically, that creeps over the lines in that the players know there's no pulling out of tackles. There's no not leaving it on the line at the far post. Everyone puts in a shift. So I think we're just a real blue-collar club, both on and off the field.
You mentioned that you've seen Apotheos play anywhere from 3 to 6 times, I guess,
Yeah.
in varying minutes of performance. So let's say somewhere between 270 and 540 minutes of Apotheos until your eyes cross and you're sitting there going, man, I think I've seen enough. If you and I were in the booth and we were calling the match, we're there at Rogers, you're off to my side.
Yeah.
Title card comes up. It's Tulsa Athletic and Apotheos FC, and we introduce each other. There's that tombstone that comes up that says the first tombstone that says basically Apotheos FC, and there's always those bullet points underneath. What have you seen in those bullet points of Apotheos that you guys have sat there and it's like, okay, we got to keep an eye on that because they do this? When you look at Apotheos, what do you see?
Well, I don't like to give too much away, and I'm not on the technical staff either. I'm just I'm a old, washed-up former pro that had a crummy professional career. But, I think kind of generically speaking, if you watch their last game, you need to finish your chances in front of goal when you're given them, and you need to not give the ball away in bad areas because they're lethal on the break, and they do take their chances. They're good shooting from range as well, so. If I were to give you 3 kind of, I don't want to play down this bit, but 3 things I would say, don't give the ball away in bad places.
Mm-hmm.
Take your chances and, kind of heads up from range. They got guys that like to pull the trigger that are more than capable on the field.
When it comes to your squad, for someone who's never seen them, who are some of the guys that would be in that spot shadow in that show open for focal points for viewers who haven't seen you? Who would be some of the standouts this year?
Well, Abu Diallo he just was named to the NPSL All-11, which is well earned. He's been with us since 2019. Great forward. He's Gabonese, so just a workhorse. Our goalkeeper, Bryson Reed, I laughed yesterday because they released the all 11 for the league. And the goalkeeper from, I think, Annapolis, congrats to him, was named goalkeeper of the year. And someone said, hey, you misspelled Bryson Reed's name wrong for goalkeeper. So he's been a wonderful addition since 18 came in, was our number one straight away. He is a pro goalkeeper who just we're lucky enough to have at the club. So he is. It's almost one of those things you never like to get scored on, but when Bryson Reed gets scored on, you can almost guarantee that it was a fantastic goal. So that when he gets scored on, you're like, hey, you were treated to a very, very nice goal. So, yeah, he's been wonderful to work with. He also, I think in another interview, I said that one of my favorite traits about him is that he keeps his silver medal from 2021 next to his bed, too. So he's driven to kind of right the ship, and I hope that he's able to do that on Saturday night.
How difficult is roster continuity in the NPSL? Because if you want to continue to have the successes that you're having and get to the last game of the year or chase after medals and continue to win conferences and things like that, continuity to me seems like that it's something that you've got to have. How difficult is that in the NPSL?
Sorry, helicopters, major press in town for the game.
Yes.
And get in.
That's News 6. They're coming for you.
News 6 is hovering above my home for non-legal reasons this time. So, you know, I do this all the time, but I think people have this perception that it's a lot of times it's, hey, who has the best team? Who has, like, what's the depth of your... Half the time it's who are the masters of the duct tape. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like, hey, who can travel on very short notice to a regional final because 32 dudes have to go to a wedding this weekend? And it's like, oh my God. So, you know, I think part of it obviously is having guys that buy in, guys that believe in the club, but there is that element too of how do you handle situations that pop up really quickly. And our general manager, Dan DeVore, and our technical staff, Jason Rogers and John Woodhead, are really, really good at, you know, squeezing the last bit of juice out of everybody that they have. And then, like, when we need a guy here and there, it's like, hey, can you pop up? Maybe give us 15 minutes. And having that guy that gives us 15 minutes, a guy who can be trusted, go and do the job and get things done. So, yeah, you know, I wish, like I said, I wish it was, you know, we built this team. We started in January or coming off the Open Cup. We were already building this roster. We rolled into the NPSL. It's just sometimes it's not like that. You know, we had a guy play in the regional tournament who hadn't played for us since 2021, you know, and was able to hold the ball up in the corner in the final. And you're like, hey, we did it. Thanks for jumping back in the mix for a weekend. We'll see you in 2026.
As someone who has you know anchored there in the Midwest, I mean, with your time at Tulsa and Wichita, Roughnecks, Wings, you know the indoor game. You know, folks got to watch, you know, Kim Rontved and the Wichita Wings on USA Network in the days of the MISL, and you know you've seen it from those days, and you've seen it from the outdoor days with the Tulsa Roughnecks. Yeah. What has it been like to see the game continue to grow the way that it has, where we're having conversations about all of these leagues and a team in Tulsa playing a team from suburban Atlanta, Georgia, playing for a championship in a league? What's it like for you to see the game grow to where it has, where we're having these conversations?
Yeah, so I think it's really cool to see that we are having teams organically pop up in these communities. I think that's super important. You know, what I say is I'd like for our club to be a template, not for how to get to the MLS, but how to bring a club to Salina, Kansas, or Poughkeepsie, or wherever. So it's wonderful to see that. Obviously, I only have 15 minutes, or you and I could talk about, you know, systemic issues that we have for teams to advance and move through a system and not do things sheerly for altruistic reasons. But, you know, seeing the game start to take roots in places that you would have thought were a barren wasteland 20 years ago is a really magic thing for me. And I think we are getting to a spot where there are going to be little small pocket communities where no, they don't get 5,000 people, but towns where there's only 5,000 people that get 500 and 800 people on the weekend because it's not a lot to do. This game is growing and being presented there properly, and people are learning about what it's like to live in Brazil because they have a left back who's around town. And the game in its purest form exists as a beautiful language of communication, right? So I think as that reaches these smaller communities in a time when I think we all need to learn to get along, I think there's no disagreeing with that. Got to disable the comment section for anything that's online. I would love to see soccer continue to be a vessel and a conduit of communication and love, in all of these communities.
Well, I mean, and as if everything continues to grow the way that it does, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
When it comes to life in the NPSL, what's the biggest misconception folks have about the league and the activity in it? Is there one thing, or it could even be just more of a general thing about being an owner and owning a franchise these days? What's the biggest misconception that you feel that you have to tackle, whether it's NPSL or outside the NPSL, about owning a franchise, operating a franchise in this current day and age?
Well, that's a really good question. I would say people see teams pop up year after year, where they finish in the standings, this and that. Just being able to pop up is a credit to everyone who's involved at that organization, because at our level, it comes down to volunteers. It comes down to people who are willing to put sometimes their money, their life, their time on the line, knowing that it's not going to generate a financial return. And, that needs to be respected by everybody, from the league to the casual observer looking at it from afar, saying, hey, this team's been in 5th place for 11 years in a row. It's like, hey, that team's been in 5th place for 11 years in a row. They've existed. So everyone who does this, I think, has a desire to have a presence in their community through the platform of soccer. So I think what they need to know is there's no shame if you're in an MLS community, but you're in a suburb of Georgia, and there's a team there that you can support. I'm a huge proponent of the club over league sort of saying. So I think it's wonderful when you see the stories of like Annapolis getting 8,000 fans a game this year. It's magic. That's so wonderful. And at the same time, recognize there are clubs out there that get 50 fans a game, that their P&L sheet starts to work a little bit better when they get 200 fans a game. So buy a hat, buy a shirt, call the owner. He'll probably answer your call. You'll be mowing the field, and you'll be really taking ownership of a club before you know it. And that's the beautiful thing about the game at our level. It allows participation at a really intimate level. And before you know it, you're a bigger part of the club than you could ever imagine. The one thing I always say is that you never own a club at this level. You're only owned by it, and you're a steward of those who love it and participate in it. So, appreciate the accessibility that comes with clubs at this level, and get involved. And, before you know it, you won't care about how Atlanta United did. You'll have 2 scarves on in the middle of summer in Georgia, rooting Apotheos on to get a result on the road. So that's what's really cool. The guys the boys from '92, the class of '92 at Man United, when they bought Salford, they did like a 3-part mini doc series. And Gary Neville, I think a toilet gets broken, and he goes in there and he says, do we fix the toilet or do we get a new striker? And I think the knee-jerk reaction is to laugh at that. But what's cool is, like, I think the majority of us live in that world. The majority of us are like, I can relate to that. Like, that's a $1,000 little scenario that swings either way there. And that's very much the planet I live on. It's tangible. You can reach out, you can touch it. And that's beautiful. I don't live on the planet of Real Madrid or Juventus with billionaires and yachts, and that's not
that are going bankrupt and can't handle their finances.
Yeah, right. No, that's true too. It's not where I'm from. So I think there's something cool about that the left back changed my tires last week. my son's in the substitute teachers, his substitute teachers in Goldeneye. Like that's cool to me. So reach out and find that in your community and recognize that. And that to me is the most beautiful part of the game at our level.
So when folks go to Tulsa, what Italian restaurant are they supposed to go to, and what are they supposed to order?
Well, I don't tell people to go, I don't recommend anything over my own place, but I do own a restaurant. It's my great grandmother's recipes. It's all Southern Italian food. So it's going to be rustic and spicy. So I would say anytime you go to an Italian place, if they can't get linguine with meatballs, right, you can leave saying that you don't ever need to go back to that place. So that's a good starting point. The Swordfish Piccata got me into a magazine I had dreamed about being in since a small child, Southern Living magazine. So, yeah, I mean, I think I got like 9 things on my menu. We keep it small because I know what I can control and excel at.
Speaking of controlling the controllables, cut the promo for me for folks that want to either watch the match this weekend with your guys and Apotheos or want to be there at Rogers in person. Cut the promo.
Yeah, tune in. Club motto, respect all, fear none. Our boys are ready for war, so our Apotheos is going to be a killer 90 minutes. Winner gets to hoist the cup. If it's us, it's going to be the world's shortest parade on Sunday. 94 feet, Dalesandro's the Mercury Lounge. Yeah, I've been working for 10 years, scrubbing toilets, grinding, played left back once. Like, we're ready. It's time. We're confident. Like I said, respect all, fear none. Safe travels, Apotheos. We're ready to lock horns.
Co-owner of Tulsa Athletic, Sonny, thanks for hanging out with us, especially early on the call after what happened last night. Glad you made it out that side. Just make sure that everything is ready to go and that you're all caffeinated up. Thanks for hanging out with us and pulling back the curtain on your half of the championship game there in the NPSL. And I cannot control News 6 if they want to come over the house this morning or tomorrow.
Exactly.
But it was good to make sure that somebody is hovering over your house when they shouldn't be early on a Friday morning. Sonny, thanks for hanging out with us.
It's big time. Thank you. Apologies to your CGI crew for what they're going to have to do to this. Thanks for having me on. Anytime you want to talk, I'm here to talk. That's awesome. Enjoy your weekend. Appreciate you guys.
And we will have that longer discussion in a 1v1. That is a promise, sir. So go get your breakfast and we'll catch up soon. Sonny Dalesandro, co-owner of Tulsa Athletic, as they get ready for the match against Apotheos, one of the great characters in soccer here in the United States. Glad we could do that. And yes, Tom, no, we did not, because we have been talking about other things. We've been talking this morning. We talked to Luke Winstel about the World Cup. We talked to Sonny about the NPSL title game. We talked to Parky about mentoring. What Tom Russo has brought to the floor this morning as we get you ready for the weekend here in the final 45 minutes is the beauty of the growing market of soccer. Tom has let us know that in the MASL, and this is one of the major leagues of indoor soccer here in the country, there is, and I would recommend that everybody click on the link or, cut it and paste it and go to this place. We'll talk Leagues Cup. We have not talked Leagues Cup yet this show, so Shooter, you are in the right place. There is a new indoor soccer team in Salisbury, Maryland, and the name of the team is, no lie, the Salisbury Stakes. I'm not kidding. Tom sent this to us, and I was like, oh, my God, I've got to talk about this. The Salisbury Stakes, with the colors that are appropriate. The Salisbury Stakes in 2023, Maryland's new minor league soccer team. MASL 3 for the upcoming season. Meet the Salisbury Stakes. Major Arena Soccer League. Third division of the indoor soccer pyramid, the Salisbury Stakes. I'm not kidding. And you know that we're all going to have to end up buying jerseys and stuff. You know we're going to have to. That's just how it rolls. The Salisbury Stakes. Night Bam, thanks for hanging out with us for another week. Get your rest. It's 12:20. All right. Since Shooter is on a roll, let's go ahead and talk about what happened with Leagues Cup yesterday. And it was off the rails. And last night would be one of those nights where I would posit that if you were not a fan of Leagues Cup, just from a neutral perspective, never watched a match, never cared, didn't give a rat's you-know-what about it, last night might have changed your opinion. Yes, Hutch, you are correct, hoping that Brussels, Illinois never gets a team, because you know now that this has been orchestrated by our friends in Salisbury, Maryland. You know that something's going to happen. You know that it's going to. All of the puns, especially. I mean, and think of it like minor league baseball. You're going to get these kinds of things. If Brussels, Illinois gets a team and they've got an arena nearby, you know they're going to be called the Sprouts because of Salisbury opening the door in major arena soccer. But yesterday, Leagues Cup, legitimately. I mean, honestly, if you were not a fan, last night might have sent you into a corner wearing a straitjacket, and it certainly did to Shooter. And Shooter will talk about this. So last night, all of the games, it was PKs everywhere. Indoor soccer is awesome. Yes, and that's true. They did with the making whoopee. Tom, you are absolutely correct. Making tracks, making whoopee, they did, no doubt. Last night, 3 of the 5 matches, and it was supposed to be 6, and we'll get into that 6th match coming up in just a bit. 3 of the 5 matches went to penalties. 3 of the 5. And the one that Shooter started the conversation was, and Shooter openly admits, he lost 200 juice boxes yesterday. But he firmly admits that he was wrong. Happy to be. Go Revs, kisses, you know what, Petro, you spoiled rat, so-and-so. And Earl Edwards is horrible. You almost cost us for 3 years. Yes. So, and Earl Edwards, by the way, and like I said, so New England beats Atlas 8-7 in penalties last night. And that was the first match of the night. First match of the night goes 8-7 in penalties. Earl Edwards almost cost the Revs the match. And so who does the team select to give their post-game chat on social media? Who did they give to the interview and the selfie stick? Earl Edwards. 8-7 on PKs. New England wins and they advance. In other calmer action, Hudson River went to Red Bulls, winning 1-0 at Red Bull Arena, probably in front of about 12 people. Querétaro and Pumas at Audi Field, because once again this year, remember that there are no home matches for Liga MX sides. Querétaro advances 1-0 over Pumas. And looking at the crowd at Audi Field, didn't look like there was a whole lot of folks. The other 2 in penalties, Philadelphia and DC. Philadelphia won 5-4 on PKs. DC had the chance to win it in PKs. Gazdag misses, but DC can't capitalize. At Subaru Park, on the road, Philadelphia comes back to win in PKs 5-4. Goalless draw. Philadelphia advances. And then, what I may do is I may link to the call. Christian Kalina stands his ground in PKs. Charlotte beats Cruz Azul by the final of 4-3, and apparently Cruz Azul fans decided to throw things on the pitch at Toyota Stadium. And so that was the Cruz Azul fans at Toyota. But Charlotte goes on to win 4-3 in PKs. So 3 of the 5 matches that were completed last night go to PKs. 8-7 New England, 5-4 Philly when DC had an early advantage, and Charlotte wins 4-3 as Christian Kalina stands his ground. And the call for Willie P. and Jess is out there. So 3 of the 5 matches go to PKs. The one match that did not happen last night was supposed to be the late game, Leon and RSL. But that one didn't happen because of, meteorology. Massive rains and things like that, thunder, lightning, very, very frightening me. But probably one of the more interesting elements of the night was at America First Field, where they said it was posted that the club had their roof certified as safe, thumbs up, 2 days ago. Apparently, there's still some work to do, or at least because of the torrential rains, they've got to redo the work that was done in the first place. Because much like our friends at RFK, invoking raccoons of years past, a raccoon fell out of the ceiling tiles in the press area at America First Field and decided he wanted some popcorn. He wanted some popcorn. It took a while for the folks that work at Rio Tinto to attempt to corral said raccoon. Went out of the main press area after he couldn't get the popcorn he wanted. Heads toward the concourse. I would have loved for Max and Dunny to do play-by-play on this. They were there waiting. Dunny got a home game. But right on the edge of the raccoon being swept into a box and being taken away, he fell like 20 feet and apparently scrambled away. But, yeah, there was a raccoon in the press box last night at Rio Tinto. Maybe that was why the game was postponed till tonight. I don't know. So, of the 6 matches scheduled last night, 5 were played. 3 went to penalties. 1 had a raccoon. If last night was not a screaming example of enjoying Leagues Cup, I don't know what is. No, and Tom, you are absolutely correct. You are absolutely correct. Tom says, somehow I didn't have raccoon falls from the ceiling on my bingo card. I don't think any of us did, except maybe the family of raccoons that apparently live inside Rio Tinto Stadium or America First Field if they sponsor your stuff. So, yeah, I mean, it was yes, I know, thunderbolts and lightning. But, yeah, so if you're not a fan of Leagues Cup, last night might have turned you just because of the general chaos that was attached, especially once you get past 90 minutes. Shooter not a fan of Atlas. Shooter wants them to go home. Abby says, turns out there have been security issues league-wide with the Mexican team's fans. Her contact with all of the other supporters groups. I'm still trying to figure out how the Cruz Azul fans got smoke canisters inside Mercedes-Benz. That's just me thinking out loud. So you've had teams advance in Leagues Cup, but yeah, last night was chaos. What can happen tonight? It's a very, very busy schedule, by the way. 7 matches in Leagues Cup tonight. Would have been 6, but Raccoons got involved. Free side of Apple TV at 8 o'clock. It's Chicago Fire and Club America. That's on the free side of Apple TV. It is on FS1 and Unimas as well. We'll get into juice boxes here as we go and see who else gets to advance in the knockout stages of, let's see, how did they classify it? Leagues Cup, North and Central America. From our friends at Odds Portal. Chicago Fire, Club America favored at a plus 116. Your draws a plus 252. Chicago Fire are a plus 208. Also at 8 o'clock. And this game, by the way, the match tonight involving Chicago Fires in Bridgeview. Atlanta United 2, by the way, losing 2-1 last night. Chicago Fire had a 2-0 lead. Jackson Conway scores at 90 plus 4 to draw it to 2-1. And Chris Gloucester gets the assist on the corner. So back Wednesday against Crown Legacy at a home match. When we find out what the situation is with the home venue, obviously we'll let you know. Game here on the SDH Network. Pregame show 15 minutes ahead of time, and kickoff will be in short order after the pregame show. So Crown Legacy, Atlanta United 2 next Wednesday on the network. Next chance that you get to catch the twos here on the network. Also at 8 o'clock from TQL, Cincinnati hosting Nashville. It's on the free side of Apple TV. FC Cincinnati's at a minus 125. Your draws a plus 261. And Nashville is a plus 323 on the road. Columbus hosting Minnesota at the Death Star in downtown Columbus. Free side of Apple TV as well. Columbus and Minnesota. Crew are a minus 139. Minnesota's a plus 315. Your draws a plus 300. The remake or the rematch or the attempted redo of the Raccoon Bowl at Rio Tinto is at 9 o'clock on Season Pass FS1 and Unimas. It's going to be a very, very busy evening for our friends at the Fox family of networks. Don't be surprised if some of this stuff gets pushed to FS2. If you've got Apple TV, then you should be able to watch it without any kind of interruption one way or the other. You can just choose your match. 9 o'clock, Club Leon and RSL. Hopefully they've swept America First with Raccoons, or at least given them a home. RSL's a plus 156. Your draw's a plus 256. Leon is a plus 149. So Leon is favored at the home to Raccoon. 9 o'clock on Season Pass on Apple TV, Toluca and Sporting Kansas City. This one is at Children's Mercy Park in Kansas City. Toluca favored at a plus 137. Your draw's a plus 246. Sporting is a plus 177. We'll get into all of the other stuff as well. Keep letting me know what's on your mind before we get into the weekend, because we've got gossip, rumor, and innuendo. We've got who's going. We'll go over the transfers, because there were more transfers that were announced yesterday after the 1 a.m. deadline. So they got more stuff in under the wire yesterday. We'll talk about all of those transactions as well and get you ready for the weekend with juice boxes and TV and all that kind of stuff. 10 o'clock, Timbers and Monterey. Monterey is favored at a plus 114. Your draw's a plus 239. Portland is a plus 224. And that one's at Providence Park. BC Place at 10:30. Also on a Season Pass, Unimas and FS1. Like I said, it's going to be a busy evening for the Fox family of networks. And then at 10:30 on Season Pass, Tigres in Vancouver. Once again, that one's at BC Place. Whitecaps are a plus 204. Tigres a plus 127. And your draw is a plus 229. So that's where we are with Leagues Cup tonight. I will go with, since there are 7 matchups, I'll say 3.5 is the over-under on matches that go to PKs. So, of course, I say that, and it'll be like the tournament in the NCAAs, where you've got the one day where your bracket gets blown up, and then the other day there's chalk. Wouldn't surprise me, since now I've said that you'll have all the games, you'll have half the matches going to PKs, that everything will be chalk, and it'll be a boring night. That's just me. All right, what are you guys discussing here? Yes, Abby, we too are wondering how the smoke got in. Knicks championship starts this weekend. Jason Nix versus John Nason. Twitch pitch v. Twitch pitch. Jason Nix and John Nason. Leicester and Coventry, Sunday morning on the Plus. Hutch. Hope the stadiums are capturing these acts and compiling biometric data that can be used to interdict these thugs before they enter stadiums. Facial recognition technology would be nice, or just using security cameras and tracing where the tickets came from. That'd be very nice, because this stuff is getting out of hand in some venues. And Hutch is still mad about the lasers and Brad Gazan. Yeah, I mean, we've seen it in Champions League. We saw it in qualifiers. We saw it in AFCON. The Mo Salah multiple laser pointers image. Champions League. We've seen it all these places. Tom, please tell me, is there gear available now? Yes. Yeah, we did talk up the stakes. It is up the stakes. When they get gear, that's the next stage in this process, is they overprice everything. And people will buy it. So it's you got all that, man. So there's a lot of that to get into. Gossip rumor. Actually, tell you what. Before we get into gossip rumor and innuendo, let's put a wrap on the transfer day news that happened. Let's see. Whitecaps loaned Daber Caicedo out to top flight side Junior FC through July of 24. Agreement includes a purchase option as well. So Daber Caicedo out in Vancouver. Also, Minnesota United and Kamar Lawrence have mutually terminated the contract. So Kamar Lawrence can go and look for a new home. Galaxy have acquired midfielder Edwin Cerrillo from FC Dallas. And this one was interesting. This Matthew Hoppe, picked up from Middlesbrough by the San Jose Earthquakes. Jarrett's radar instantaneously went up when this came across. Hoppe got a 12-month loan from Middlesbrough to San Jose. According to our friends at MLS Soccer, secondary transfer window move they hope can reignite Hoppe's career closer back to home. Spent a year with the LA Galaxy Academy when he was younger. So at Schalke, Matthew Hoppe, 6 goals, 22 appearances in the 2021 season. Hoppe's San Jose's second offensive-minded signing in the summer window after, remember, they acquired Ayo Akinola in a trade with Toronto FC. So Matthew Hoppe to San Jose. Very, very intriguing. DC United acquired Panamanian forward Jose Fajardo from Club Atletico Independiente, under contract through the 23 season, options for 24 and 25. Remember, they also assigned left-back Eric Davis as well. Experienced forward with great attacking intuition, finishing ability, impressive Gold Cup with the Panama national team this summer after scoring twice in the tournament, according to Dave Casper, DC's president of soccer ops. Fajardo has scored 7 goals, 2 assists, 36 appearances playing for country for Panama. Finishing runner-up in the Gold Cup, scoring twice in the group stage. Played soccer in Ecuador and Peru, joins the DC United striker corps that has Christian Benteke, Nigel Roberta, Eric Hurtado. And, Christian Benteke, once again. The Belgian breadloaf showed up at the worst possible time last night for DC United in Leagues Cup play. So, addition there for DC. LAFC, and this one had been talked about for a while. LAFC transferred Sifu, Jose Cifuentes, to Rangers. 3.5 years, 14 goals, 20 assists, 102 regular season matches. John Thorrington had 2 sentences. Out of contract this winter, represented LAFC at the World Cup in Qatar. 16 caps for La Tri, playing alongside Diego Palacios. Midfield core for LAFC, Kellen Acosta, Timothy Tillman, Ilie. During the summer window, they brought in Bulgarian midfielder Filip Krastev on loan from Belgian second division side Lommel SK. So Sifu out as a part of the transactions. LA Galaxy made this one officially official, signing Maya Yoshida under contract through the 24 season. He was a free agent, and that is something that LA could do under current roster restrictions from the front office and the commissioner's office of Major League Soccer. So they could sign free agents under contract through the end of the 24 season, the 34-year-old defender. Greg Vanny, 2 sentences in a release. Played the last 3 World Cups for Japan, 126 overall appearances, 3rd most in program history. Captained them last fall in Qatar as they fell to Croatia in the round of 16. Club career, 28 goals, 15 assists, 463 appearances. Played over 150 times for Southampton. Featured extensively for Sampdoria and VVV Venlo in the Eredivisie prior to his time at Schalke. In Yoshida, they get another experienced center back after Martin Caceres suffered a long-term knee injury. And remember the sanctions. Couldn't sign players from abroad during the secondary window, but could sign free agents before the roster freeze date, September 15th. So that's how they can do things. Couldn't do anything in the window, but you can sign free agents now until September 15th. So they have 40 days to sign more free agents. So Maya Yoshida goes to LA Galaxy. FC Dallas signed long-term La Liga midfielder Asier Ieramendi. 350 matches for teams like Real Sociedad, Real Madrid, signs with FC Dallas. Signs through the 23 season with an option for 24, arriving after being a free agent. 2-time Copa del Rey winner, part of the Champions League winning side in 2014. Played 3 times for Spain's national team during the 2017 calendar. Joins a midfield that includes Facundo Guignon, Sebastian Leggett, Paxton Pomacall, second newcomer of the summer window following the arrival of Ghanaian forward Eugene Ansah. So Ieramendi is added to FC Dallas. Rapid signed midfielder Sidney Tavares from FC Porto B. And we talked about the Michael Apotheos deal for LAG in a trade with the Colorado Rapids. Sam Adekubi returns to the Vancouver Whitecaps. We mentioned the Jan Gregish deal, and that catches us up, we think. Very, very busy last day in the transfer window for Major League Soccer. But remember, you still got 5 weeks. You can bring in free agents and continue to build your roster that way. Now let's get to gossip, rumor, and innuendo and let you know what else is going on. We'll get into the Harry Kane stuff coming up in a bit. Newcastle considering making a £50 million bid. Oh, wait, that's old. I didn't hit the refresh button. Wow. It's like Mikhailo Mudryk. No, you didn't hit the refresh button. Everton, Tom, have leapfrogged Spurs and West Ham in the race to sign Harry Maguire. Harry Maguire, Everton, what do you think? Wolves manager Julian Lopetegui is considering his position as manager. Lopetegui's pretty pissed that there hasn't been any real investment, and so Lopetegui's debating whether or not he should stay. Chelsea, Manchester City, increasing their efforts to sign Michael Olise amid confusion over a release clause in the 21-year-old Eagles deal, and you know that Chelsea and Manchester City are going to pounce if they can find a loophole. PSG, I was using Football Insider's words and BBC's words, Nick. It was not my own. The race to sign Harry Maguire. No one has been in a race to sign Harry Maguire. And Tom Russo, our resident Evertonian, along with Ropes, is like, nope. And Emilio, nope. PSG closing in on bringing in Benfica forward Gonzalo Ramos to the club. That's from our friends at L'Equipe. Clement Lenglet resisting Barcelona's desires to sell him to Al Nassr, with the defender determined to return to Spurs, where he spent last season on loan. Chelsea hopes of swapping Romelu Lukaku for Juve's Dusan Vlahovic in a player in cash deal. They're being hit by the Juve demand of a £35 million fee. Vlahovic and $35 million for Lukaku. I don't think that's going to end well. Nick was on, remember, last time, and he was like, nah, that ain't ending well, period. Arsenal have submitted an opening bid of 20+3 in add-ons for David Raya. That's according to Fabrizio Romano. Manchester United monitoring the status of Bayern Munich midfielder Leon Goretzka, who is not believed to be in manager Thomas Tuchel's plans. Aston Villa are willing to activate a release clause for Tyler Adams, reported to be £25 million. Waiting for an answer. about his future. Chelsea are also considering making a move for him. That's from the four-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. Newcastle have agreed on a £40 million deal for Southampton defender Tino Livramento. Spurs are in talks to sign £12 million rated 19-year-old Argentine forward Alejo Veliz from Rosario Central, looking to offload Hugo Lloris, Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, Tanguy Ndombele, and Brian Heel. That's according to the Evening Standard. Dembele will have a medical on Friday prior to completing a move from Barca to PSG. Wolfsburg wants Spurs to pay $43 million for their defender, Mickey van de Ven. That's from the four-letter paper as well. West Ham and Forest are chasing PSG's 21-year-old forward Hugo Ekitike. West Ham's move for James Ward-Prowse is off after Hammers technical director Tim Stuyton is against bringing in the 28-year-old England international who's wanted by manager David Moyes. Southampton, once again, we mentioned Tino Livramento. They're looking to sign Max Aarons from Norwich to fill the gap for Livramento. Burnley have opened talks to try and sign 21-year-old Denmark forward Mohamed Darami from Ajax. That's from Fabrizio Romano. Bournemouth set to sign Italian midfielder Gaetano Castrovilli from Fiorentina for €12 million plus add-ons. Forest have offered Roma £21.5 million for center back Roger Ibanez, once again Fabrizio Romano. Ivory Coast midfielder Franck Kessie, close to making a £13 million move from Barca to Al Ahly. That's from our friends at The Athletic. That's round one of gossip, rumor, and innuendo. And let me know what you guys are going to be watching this weekend before we get into the where you can watch stuff part of the show. What are you watching this weekend? Are you getting up early? Are you watching things? What are you watching? Let me know. Bayern Munich submitted their final bid for Harry Kane. Final bid. Offer is worth more than €100 million, £86.24 million, with add-ons included, according to Sky Germany. Kane wants to have his future resolved before Tottenham's opening Premier League match of the new season, Sunday, August 13th. Sky Sports News reports previously there was at least a £20 million gap in valuation. Bayern believe they've improved on this, feel their proposal is fair and final until it's not. Kane's out of contract next summer, and the risk for Spurs is keeping him beyond the current transfer window and losing an elite goal scorer on a free, potentially to a rival. Unwilling to sign a new contract with Spurs, preference is to join Bayern over other interested clubs, including PSG. Florian Plettenberg is the one that broke the news about 2 hours ago on Harry Kane. If Spurs accept the offer, Plettenberg believes the transfer could happen quickly. Kane could potentially earn in the region of £11 million net annually over the course of a 5-year deal, broken down into basic salary, number of games played, and bonuses. Kane scored 30 goals last season in a campaign for Spurs where they finished 8th, missed out on European football, remained without a trophy since 2008. 213 goals, 320 appearances in Premier League matches. Currently 48 goals off breaking Alan Shearer's record as the highest scorer in Premier League history. Other signings, we mentioned the final offer. Kane's happy to stay at Spurs if the Bayern move falls through and would work with Ange Postecoglou. He won't renew the contract, but he'll work with Ange and not be concerned about it. Anas Zaroury has signed the 5-year deal with Burnley. The Moroccan international arrived at Turf Moor last summer. 11 goals, 39 appearances with the club as they won promotion. Chelsea. Let me know if you've heard this before. Chelsea are still deciding the next step in their pursuit of Moises Caicedo, but are expected to go back in with an improved offer. Is this like the 9th offer for Moises Caicedo? Understood Brighton believe the player will stay at the club this summer. However, Chelsea believe Caicedo wants to join. Latest bid worth 80 was rejected, with Brighton's valuation closer to 100. We've known that. Chelsea still holds a strong interest in Romeo Lavia, but there's been no formal bid yet to Southampton. Sky Sports also told there's been interest from 2 Saudi clubs about Eric Bailly at Manchester United, not part of the Eric Ten Hag plans going forward. Nottingham Forest still in discussions with Manchester United over the signing of keeper Dean Henderson. Remember, Matt Turner is also being discussed. And if it's Turner, then it would be a transfer. It would not be a loan. Full transfer. Ilber Ramadani has joined Lecce from Aberdeen for a fee of 1.1. Lecce have the option to extend his deal by a further year, 10% sell-on clause. The Albanian international moved to Aberdeen last summer from Hungarian side MTK Budapest. No, well, we mentioned it yesterday, but next we'll get into Tom Brady coming up in just a sec. Midfielder Sofian Amrabat remains a player of interest for Manchester United. Bulk of United's incoming transfer business has been done, but if there are departures, club are thought to be ready to bring in replacements. Harrison Ashby joins Swansea on a long-term deal from Newcastle. Xabi Alonso has agreed to a 2-year contract extension to June of 26. Real Sociedad remains in talks with Manchester United over the signing of Donny van de Beek. Galatasaray still remain interested in Fred. They might be the only folks interested in Fred, looking at other options, including Tanguy and Ndombele. Manchester United looked like they're going to unveil Rasmus Højlund on Saturday, completing the medical today. Let's see. Pep Guardiola also says they haven't received proper offers for Bernardo Silva. All right. Yes, loser leave town with Harry. Let's see. Tafka. Tafka does not see what is so special about Harry Kane. Great player, no question, but $100 million at his age. Remember, Tafka, when we talk about financials in Europe, the overinflated nature of a lot of their valuations, it's their own fault. We can look at it, and like I said, for me, I'll give you an example of Southampton. Southampton relegated. But the problem is with players like Livramento and Lavia and Ward-Prowse, the valuations are higher on Lavia than they are on Ward-Prowse, which to me is backward because of what James Ward-Prowse has proven on the Premier League stage and what he's proven on the international stage as a free kick specialist. I would have flipped the evaluations of those two. Lavia, they says closer to 50, Ward-Prowse 30 to 40. I would have flipped them. But the nature of their valuations is so overinflated that you have to quote unquote overpay in these situations. So you slap, the Moises Caicedo thing. We've talked about it for years. We talked about how it was a fantastic move for Brighton in the first place. And now Moises Caicedo is in that $80 to $100 million range. It's just the inflationary nature of valuations in European football. So we could sit there and say that Harry Kane, at his age isn't worth 100, but because of the nature of the evaluation process and valuations that clubs give, just because of the precedents that have been set, you're going to end up with high-profile numbers and high-profile players being attached to one another. So 9 figures to Harry Kane, 9 figures for Moises Caicedo. It's the nature of the beast. Yes, it's monopoly money. Yes, it's just stuff that is talked out over their head, all of that stuff. Abby, you have a wonderful weekend as well. Public service by Abby, by the way. USWNT Watch Party Photo Midtown, 5 a.m. Some food items are available, not full menu. Maybe you can bring your own breakfast. Just a thought. Sunday, 5 a.m. Sunday. Hutch, how long before the fans are priced out of the stadium? That's the question. But you imagine that there's going to be a point where you get to the discussions and all this, and it's just like, what's it worth to me? What's it worth to me? So, yeah, it's. For a team like Spurs that doesn't even have a corporate sponsor attached to their stadium yet, that to me is a dangerous game. Spurs Stadium, I know that Amazon, I know at one point was interested, and then the pandemic hit and all that kind of stuff, but Spurs don't even have a title sponsor for their stadium. and they're chasing after these kinds of things. So we'll see. Also on the board, Knicks. Tom Brady buying into Birmingham City. Let's effing go. And I mean, if you look at, I want to see if there was any kind of insightful quote about revenue and generation of revenue and all of that stuff. So, all right. From Greg Evans and Adam Leventhal. 37th in the English soccer pyramid, Tom Brady becomes a minority owner. And so here's the explanation of the strategy from Evans and Leventhal. It's been a struggle. Decline has largely been down to financial mismanagement. Carson Young, the owner when the club were last in the Premier League, was jailed for money laundering and points deductions, transfer embargoes, and a long list of broken promises have followed since under different ownership models. Sections of the club stadium, St. Andrews, have also been closed for over 2 years due to asbestos. The hope is that the repair work will be completed before the end of the calendar year, and the ground's full reopening, whenever the exact date of that is, will signal a changing of the times. Only last month, upon completing the takeover, Tom Wagner, co-chief exec of Shelby Companies, the group which now owns the club, said there was a need to change everything. Longest-serving club in the championship. This will be their 13th straight campaign in the championship. Shelby Companies, named after the family featured in Peaky Blinders, is a UK subsidiary of Knighthead Capital Management, an investment firm co-founded by Wagner in New York in 2008. Shelby Companies purchased 45% of Birmingham City, as well as all of the stadium, the company behind St. Andrews. Wagner and Brady have linked up before. Alongside Kim Clijsters, they bought a Major League Pickleball expansion team last year. Venture capitalists, and once again, this is from The Athletic. Venture capitalists buying into English soccer are not generally welcomed with open arms, and some have suggested Brady's involvement with Birmingham is little more than PR gloss. Unlike other owners, however, Wagner's so far remained relatively reserved at Birmingham, appointed an experienced CEO, former Manchester City exec Gary Cook, adding Hope Powell, former head coach of the England women's national team, to the management group. Hedge fund managers typically have to make cold, calculated decisions to get distressed assets moving again, and already Birmingham's plans to grow brand awareness through use of Brady are clear. Wagner stopped short of announcing outlandish ideas. Yeah, pickleball expansion, it's a big thing. Wagner stopped short of announcing outlandish ideas or unrealistic ambitions, though when addressing supporters through a post-takeover video, he instead appears to be working on a long-term strategy rather than a quick fix, and recognizes the growth opportunity within a city of over 1 million people as he starts a long-awaited cleanup the club have needed for years following absentee ownership of the past. So why would Brady invest? Brady is an investor in Knighthead, subsequently following on from the takeover of Birmingham. So the fund, Knighthead Capital Management, investment firm from 2008. So Tom's involvement with the investment firm, Brady sees this as an opportunity, and so you dive in and you kind of draft behind Knighthead to be a part of the takeover. His role, according to the club, quote, apply his extensive leadership experience and expertise across several components of the club, including working alongside the sports science department to advise on health, nutrition, wellness, and recovery systems and programs. Obviously, that means I ain't eating burgers. No word on how much money he has invested or the size of his stake. Main driver is surely seeing a financial return, but Brady is also likely to have been attracted by the buzz of playing a hands-on role in an investment following his retirement rather than just sitting and having money roll in. Offering advice on how to get the best out of some performance-related departments. So it's multi-pronged idea for Tom Brady. Birmingham are not going to benefit greatly from Brady's considerable financial resources. Forbes estimated he was paid more than $530 million over the course of his NFL career. More about his ability to help Birmingham City grow as a brand and increase commercial revenue. Shelby have started investing in the facilities at the Wastel's training ground, improving the pitch at St. Andrews. Birmingham fans optimistic. The rapper J.K. has even released a track to coincide with the new season. Cuts still need to be made in the squad to help balance the books, stay in line with FFP. Need to bring in new recruits before the September 1st transfer deadline. At the same time, moving on current players from big contracts. Manager John Eustace faces challenges when the new season begins Saturday away at Swansea City. So that's the early word on why Tom Brady and Birmingham City, because he was tied to the management fund that was picking up the team and the stadium. So that's what we're staring at. Tafka on Moises Caicedo. Caicedo at least has his youth to pad the value justification. You're paying a premium because you can't get much of it back when selling him on. Kane, this is kind of it. It's dead money, as Darren Eales puts it. Knicks, I don't know. Knicks wants to know what was up with Chelsea not having a shirt sponsor on the U.S. tour. I think they're probably still trying to find one up. Yeah, we know pickleball is a big deal. It is a big deal. I mean, it's getting a play on Sports Network television right now. Hutch, it might be bigger than crypto. We'll see. Knicks, the fact that ESPN backed pickleball over the MLS this year, the year Messi arrives, has to be one of the funniest business decisions in the history of business. But it's also economically feasible. You can get into pickleball, do it on the cheap, plaster it all over your networks, and you've got content. Might be an hour at a time or 2 hours or, 2 hours at a time, but you could, show as much of it as you want. Think of it like when they show tennis tournaments. I'm not. But and Nick's when you're looking at pickleball in and of itself, I mean, you're looking at target demos. When you have target demos, and that's what you're doing, you're looking for 35 to 54, male and female, and what products do they buy? This is specifically targeted audience, targeted time slots, and viewing and making sure that it's very insular when it comes to what you're viewing and what you're staring at. Yeah, meet him and study him and tell me what you find out. Hutch says it's big at the tennis club behind him. What's on TV? And we'll do that, and then that'll be another week. Once again, thanks to Luke Winstel and the Merry Band, who are still in Australia, but not for long. Michael Parkhurst and our friends at Beyond Goals Mentoring. Sonny Dalesandro, co-owner of Tulsa Athletic, as they get ready for the match against Apotheos this weekend. So very, very busy show, and thanks to all of them for being a part of it. Soccer today. FS1 Leagues Cup doubleheader. We mentioned that. It's going to be a very, very busy day for Leagues Cup. So maybe watch it on Apple or have FS1 up, Unimas up, because it's going to be all over the place. That Lyon match has messed up things. Unless FS1 is going to be cutting back and forth and going 8 o'clock one, 9 o'clock one, 10 o'clock another one, wrapping up. It's going to be an interesting day. Gold TV's got the Johan Cruyff Shield match, Feyenoord and PSV at 2 o'clock. And if you don't have Gold TV, you can pick it up on Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. Good for the show. Good for our friends at Fanatis. It's all the BN networks. It is for the fans. It is TIC. It is Gold TV. It's Nuestra Tele. There's a lot out there, and Jason got me hooked, so I blame him. Unimas has the Leagues Cup. We talked about that. We talked about what's on Season Pass. MLS Next Pro tonight. Crew 2 and Toronto FC's at 7. Philadelphia Union 2 and NYCFC 2's at 7. Timbers 2, Tacoma Defiance at 10. All those are on Season Pass. On the plus, Bundesliga 2, Hertha Berlin and Wien Wiesbaden at 12:30. 3 matches in the USL Championship. Charleston, Oakland, Colorado Springs, Birmingham at 9. Tulsa, Louisville at 9 o'clock. Paramount Plus has your NWSL Challenge Cup. Orlando, Washington at 7 o'clock. Saturday, round of 16, Saturday night at 10, Netherlands and South Africa. FS1, early tomorrow morning. Switzerland, Spain at 1 a.m., Japan, Norway at 4 a.m. Bunch of friendlies. The Ecuadorian Primera is on Gold TV. Telemundo and Universo are simulcasting, as is Peacock. Season Pass has Inter Miami, Orlando City B at 6, Rapids 2, and Whitecaps 2 at 8. NextPro.com has Loons 2 and North Texas. The Plus, Nick's mentioned the championship. There's a lot of stuff. Blackburn, West Brom at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. Friendlies, Bundesliga 2, 8 matches in the USL Championship, 6 matches in USL League 1. Paramount Plus. Argentine Primera, the Brasileiro, NWSL Challenge Cup, and once again, Peacock simulcasting Switzerland, Spain, Japan, Norway, Netherlands, and South Africa. Then, Sunday, busy day, as Nick's mentioned. He's going to be up early watching Leicester and Coventry City, Leeds and Cardiff Cities at 9:30, Sunderland, Ipswich at noon. FA Community Shield, Arsenal, Manchester City's at 11 o'clock, Belgian Pro League on the Plus as well. You got a lot of stuff. Pace yourself, people. It's a lot of stuff to watch this weekend. Knicks, have a good weekend. And once again, thanks to everybody who's been with us all week long. It's been a very, very busy week, a very, very fun week from our friends in Australia, Bart Keeler, Luke Winstel, the Merry Band. They got to come on with us a couple times. Dylan Butler was with us this week. It was Chris Wally, the head coach of Lionsbridge, is there traveling to Ballard for the USL League 2 championship. Then you had Nico Moreno coming on at 10:30 to be with Nick and Jarrett and myself. So that is a fun week. It's been a full week, and it's been fantastic. Once again, thanks hanging out with y'all. So this will be available later on the app. iPhone, you got to go to Spreaker. Search for Soccer Down Here. Search for OSG Sports. You can listen to it that way. And then on Google Play, download the Soccer Down Here app. Download the OSG Sports app for all your college football content. Soccer Down Here app available on Android. You can listen to live events, all the high school, the twos, Next Pro, all our episodic programming, morning show, all friggin' week long. That's another week with us. So since it is the end of another week, since it's the end of another show, played safe, everybody. Enjoy your weekend. Be safe, especially if you're getting up early at 5 a.m. to watch the U.S. Mucho plot to y'all. And since it is the end of the show, the end of another week, that means I get to do this. We'll be back with you again Monday morning.